Welcome back, everybody. Today we're here to talk about The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 14. And the opening minutes we got for the episode, I love these opening minutes because it gives us a flashback of what was going on between Carol and Negan. Because that scene, I think, is very important because I think it's like, it is technically the first scene they have together. Now, The Walking Dead has done a lot of time jumps since Negan has been on the show. Like, a lot of time jumps, like big time jumps, like 6 years, like a couple of months here and there. So, there has been a couple time jumps. So, we don't know if this is like the first time they've ever talked to each other or what. But regardless, it's really cool. And in the sneak peek, yeah, it is a sneak peek, but it's technically the opening minutes as well. The opening minutes, we get to see what the deal was between them, and what they were planning. And I'm very excited to talk about it. Obviously, spoiler warning in case you haven't been caught up with The Walking Dead. Go check it out, and then come back to this video. Also, if you are a fan of The Walking Dead, be sure to subscribe for more Walking Dead content. But with all that being said, let's get into the review. Alright, so the opening minute starts off with Negan inside the cell, and this is like this is really interesting because it looks like it took place a while back, because Negan is in the cell and then Carol walks in, and you can tell that Carol's hair is a lot longer than what it was in season 10. Like, this was probably like closer to the events of season 9. Now remember, there was like a time jump between season 9 and 10, like a couple months, because remember how season 9 ended with the snow and then season 10 was spring again. So there was a couple of months of a time jump. So that's really interesting because that's how long it took Negan to actually do it, which is Negan was in the cell in the beginning of season 10. So I would say like it took at least probably like at least a few weeks because of Carol's hair. But again, Carol's hair is up right now, so maybe it looks different, but the point is that it did take Negan a lot longer than expected, which is going to be very important, and we'll talk about why. But basically, Negan is sitting here in the cell, and then Carol walks in, and this is really like cool seeing these two have a scene together. Like, we saw it at the end of episode 12, but this is like I wouldn't say it's the first time they ever met each other, because they seem kind of comfortable talking to each other. Like, this interaction didn't seem like it was the first time they ever met. If it was the first time they ever met, they just sort of started talking like they have seen each other before. So I feel like they have seen each other before, but just we as fans have never seen it, because again, there's been a lot of time jumps since Negan has been introduced into The Walking Dead. So because of that, we haven't seen them have a scene together. So this was really cool. It's as viewers, it's our first time seeing Negan and Carol have a scene together, which is kind of cool and funny at the same time. But basically, Carol walks in and Negan is sort of like shocked seeing her, and Carol just pretty much gets to the point. Carol says like, "You want forgiveness?" And then Negan says, I know what I've done, but I'm not gonna get on my knees for forgiveness." And that's what I mean. Like, the way they're talking to each other seems like they have spoken before. And it's also really interesting how these two were like the front runners to kill Alpha, and they were like, as fans, we've never seen them together, but it's really cool how they did team up. And I did give a spoiler warning in the beginning of the video, but obviously they accomplished it and they did kill Alpha. But Carol says, "What do you want?" Negan makes a Negan joke, says like TV and beer, and then Carol said, "What if you didn't have to die?" And then Negan gets up and starts getting interested in the conversation or whatever, Carol's going to tell her, which is really interesting to me because that's all Carol said, like, what if you didn't have to die? So now I'm thinking, what if it was their plan to kill Negan? Because they started talking about the counselor as well, and I feel like this is a possibility because Negan was in the cell for a long time, and maybe they were discussing the idea and the possibility of killing him because a lot of people weren't happy with him. Because he was in that cell for a long time, and I do remember they were also having discussions about what to do with Negan. So I do think that maybe that was something they were discussing, like just killing Negan. Which is kind of interesting to also think about, because Rick said not to kill Negan. So did they just like sort of like, once Rick left, or were they still discussing, I wouldn't say they were going against what Rick said. They probably were just like, a lot of people in the community were probably upset and they didn't know what to do, and a lot of people still really don't like Negan. And even still, I'm sure after the Carol and Alpha thing and what Negan did, a lot of people are still probably going to be upset and not fully respect Negan for what he did. Because let's face it, no matter what Negan does, there's always gonna be that thing about him bashing in Glenn and Abraham's skull in. Like there's always gonna be that, So, and I think Jeffrey D. Morgan and Negan, it's a likable character. I think he's done a great job with the character, even though he is like, or at least he has done really bad stuff in the past. But still, there's always gonna be that thing, just sort of hanging above his head. But basically, once Carol says like, "What if you don't have to die?" Then Negan starts getting interested in the conversation because I guess, he was a little bit worried that they were going to kill him or something. But then Negan says, like, I didn't know you had a say in the council deciding my fate. So that's what I mean. Like, it looks like the council was sort of like deciding what to do with Negan. And then Carol says, I'm not here for the council. And yeah, it looks like Carol isn't like Carol's a very important character in Alexandria, but she is sort of like she kind of is on her own a lot. Like she's very independent, so she isn't really part of the council and she doesn't really do stuff like that. So, like the council we saw, it was like Sadiq and Gabriel and Liz was on it. So those are the people who I think were sort of like deciding whether or not to, kill or save Negan. But Carol obviously is on her own mission here, and Negan sort of figured that out because he was like, yeah, I figured that out. But what I get that, but what I don't get is why you're here talking to me when you should be lining your skin queen up in your crosshair. So Negan knows what happened, so I think he sort of gets an idea. And then Carol says, what do you think this is about? So basically just luring him into it. And then Negan says like, damn, the stone's on you. And Carol says like, are you in or out? And Negan says, that I hear that you're a badass, but what if I mess up here and, everything gets worse for all the men, children, and women, and, I'm not down for that. So that's what I mean, like little stuff like that kind of shows that Negan is a good person because he was kind of hesitant because he's worried something bad was going to happen and it was going to cost people's lives, and he doesn't want that to happen. But not only that, like they already hate Negan, so that's going to make it even worse. So in a way, he's looking out for himself, but also, Negan does have, in a way, I think, part of him is a good person, I think. He does stuff to survive, but so does everybody. So, you can make that argument for Negan. Like, we even saw that in last episode, Michonne's final episode, that Rick's people have not done good stuff either. So, it's just a matter of, as fans, who we followed from the beginning of the show, so it's hard to, like, dislike Rick and them, even though they have done bad stuff. But that's what I mean, like, Negan still has some good in him. But that's when Negan starts giving in because he says that Carol says, like, I need to get this done and this will help everyone. And Negan just says, what do I have to do? Because I think Negan knows that it looks like things were getting really bad during the off time. So there is a lot of stuff that happened, during time skips and stuff like that we didn't see. So it looks like people were really debating whether or not to kill Negan. So Negan did give in and, help out Carol. And then Carol basically just said what I was talking about a second ago, saying that people are not going to forget what you did. But if you bring me Alpha's head, that's what they're going to remember you by. I'll make sure of that. So, she did a pretty good job of making him do, the job. And he did it. He killed Alpha. So that's really interesting. But the next part is when things get really interesting because Carol says, or Negan says, I have your word. And Carol says, if you do it fast. So that's really interesting because I don't think he did it fast. Because if you remember the end of the episode, when he gave Carol the head, Carol said, took you long enough. So it looks like, and in the trailer, I'm sure everyone has seen the trailer for episode 14, Negan was talking to Carol and said that, I gave you my word, now you have to give me yours. And Carol just sort of walks away. So that's that's really messed up. I hopefully people figure out that it was Negan. I don't want Carol to just take credit for it. So hopefully Carol doesn't do that. I mean, Carol is like really angry and just upset with everything right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if she cheats Negan out of the promise. But hopefully she doesn't, because I think Negan Negan went through a lot. Like Negan did a lot of stuff to get the head of Alpha. So he went through a lot of stuff to do that. So I think everyone deserves to know it was Negan. Negan deserves that, so hopefully it does happen. But then that's when the opening minutes kind of ends off. It just sort of cuts to Alpha's head where, it picked up from a present day. But I really like that. I really like that sneak peek because it gives us, a good idea of what the plan was. And then also we get to actually see like their first time interacting, at least for us fans, the first time we've seen them interact. So that's really cool. But let me know all your thoughts and opinions about it. Let me know what do you think about the deal. Do you agree with Carol? If Carol doesn't tell everybody that it was Negan, hopefully she does. I think it'll be kind of messed up if Carol doesn't tell people. But that was the opening minutes. I quickly want to talk about it in this video, cover it for you guys. So let me know all your thoughts and opinions. I am going to wrap it up there. So hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave a like rating. And if you are a fan of The Walking Dead, be sure to subscribe because as usual, we'll be posting a lot of videos throughout the week, Walking Dead related. So be sure to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see you guys later.